this is Jess from Make and Do Crew, and in this video tutorial we're going to learn how to make what I'm calling the braided extended half double crochet. I've never actually seen this stitch worked anywhere else, so I named it myself, but if you've seen it somewhere and you know an official name, please let me know in the comments. I came up with this when I was stuck on an airplane and I wanted to create something that looked sort of knit, but that wouldn't take forever to create. This is the same stitch used in my braided boho poncho pattern. Here it has a great texture and the extended half double crochet make it work up pretty quickly. And today we're going to be using Lion brand Wool-Ease Thick and Quick. So to get started with this braided extended half double crochet, we can start with any multiple of stitches. So I'm just going to chain a handful of stitches here, and then we're going to work into the fourth chain from the hook. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do a little variation on a half double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook in that fourth chain, grab my working yarn, and then pull it up. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. And instead of pulling through all 3 like I normally would with a half double crochet, I'm just going to pull through the first one when I yarn over. So now I'm back to having 3 loops on my hook, and that's when I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So that's what an extended half double crochet looks like. Let's try it again. I'm yarning over, inserting my hook in the next chain, yarning over and pulling it through. Now I have 3 loops. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through the first loop. So now I'm back to having 3 loops. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull it through all 3 loops on my hook. So it's right in between a half double crochet and a double crochet as far as the height of it. And it makes projects go pretty quickly because it's just a little bit taller. So I'm going to work extended half double crochet all the way to the end of this row. And now that I'm rounding out row 1 here, I'm going to finish my last extended half double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1 while I turn this around. And for row 2, we're going to be working slip stitches, and there's kind of 3 places we could work them in this extended half double crochet stitch. So we've got the first loop here, which is at the very front, and then we have the second one, which is in the middle, and then the third one, which is way in the back. And we're going to be working right in the middle one, so it's kind of the one that forms the ridge along the front of this fabric. So we've got 1, 2, 3, I'm working into 2. And for a slip stitch, I've chained 1 and then I'm just going to pull my yarn through that stitch. I've got 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to, instead of yarning over and pulling through like a single crochet, I'm just going to take this loop and pull it through my first loop. So that's my first slip stitch. Again, I'm going to insert my hook under that middle loop, grab the yarn, so I have 2, and pull that second loop through the first. That's all there is to it for a slip stitch. So I'm pulling through and pulling it through the first loop. And these slip stitches are what is going to create the braided look in this stitch. It creates these nice little nesting V's that look a little bit like knitting. So I am slip stitching in each stitch here. And when we get to the end of the row, I'm going to point out what the last stitch looks like because it can be a little bit confusing with half double crochet. So we've got these chain 3 here, and that's what we started out with at the beginning of row 1. And that doesn't count as a stitch, but there is one more little stitch hidden in there that we don't want to miss. So you can see here we've got 3 strands of yarn running parallel to each other again. 1, 2, and 3. And that's our last half double crochet. So we want to work into the middle one again, and that's going to ensure that we don't lose any stitches along the way and start working a triangle when we really mean to create a straight edge. So one thing you can do to keep track is just the same number of extended half double crochet you had in row 1. You're going to want to have the same number of slip stitches in row 2, and then in row 3 you're going to want to have the same number of stitches again. And that can help ensure that you're not leaving anyone behind on the edges. So at the beginning of row 3 we're going to chain 3 and turn our work, and that's 1 more chain than you would normally work with a half double crochet, but these are a little bit taller, so that's why we chain 3. And now looking at this row of slip stitches, there's a few places we could insert our hook, and once again it's going to be important where we put it because that's what's going to create the braided look. So we've got 1 strand closest to us and 1 strand farthest away, and that's our slip stitches, and we're going to want to work under the strand that's closest to us, so the front part of the V. So I kind of like to turn it this way so I can see where to put my hook, and I'm going to yarn over just like we did with the extended half double crochets before, and then here are my chains. So this is the first slip stitch, and I'm going to insert my hook underneath that first loop, yarn over, and then work an extended half double crochet. So again, you can see right here, I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook right underneath that front strand of the V. And what that does is creates the braided strand running through the rows of extended half double crochet, because you can see that what we're left with here of the slip stitch is what looks like these nested V's, and that's what's going to look like knitting in our rows of crocheting. So we're going to work extended half double crochets in the front loop of each slip stitch all the way to the end of this row. Okay, and now we're at the end of this row again, and I just want to point out, so that we don't lose a stitch at the end of this one, what the last slip stitch is going to look like. So the slip stitch looks like two strands running parallel to each other, which is this one, and then there's this little bump at the end, and that's the chain that we started with. So we just want to make sure that we don't leave this lump behind, because it kind of looks like a turning chain, but there's actually technically one more stitch we need to work right there. So I'm going to go under that front loop. It can be a little tight with a slip stitch, so sometimes I need to stretch it out with my hook a little bit. And I'm going to work one last extended half double crochet. And it's important to note here that if you're having any trouble working into those slip stitches, you just want to make a point to make those slip stitch rows a little bit loose, because slip stitches have a tendency to get a little tight, and you can just do yourself a favor by making them intentionally loose each time you come to a row 2 like that. So that's actually all there is to this braided extended half double crochet stitch. We've got a row of extended half double crochet followed by slip stitch through the middle loop, and then another row of extended half double crochet that's worked only in the front loop. And then you're just alternating that pattern, row 1 and row 2, until you have the height that you need for your project. And I have the written instructions right below this video, so you can reference back if you forget which loop you're supposed to work in for each row. Check out those written instructions, because they'll be helpful also. And now that you've mastered this stitch, you can find the free crochet pattern for my braided boho poncho in the link right below this video. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crocheting!